of corruption and decentralization in the decline of the Ottoman Empire. Among the varied factors contributing to the decline of the Ottoman Empire, corruption and decentralization stand out as critical issues that exacerbated internal weaknesses and facilitated external threats. The significance of these factors can be understood through their pervasive effects on the empire's bureaucracy, military, and governance systems, which were the pillars of Ottoman might for centuries. 1. Rampant corruption in the bureaucracy. The Ottoman Empire had a complex bureaucratic system that, at its peak, was highly effective and efficient. However, over time, the bureaucracy became increasingly corrupt, undermining the empire's stability. Jobs in the bureaucracy became hereditary and were often sold to the highest bidder, rather than being awarded based on merit. As a result, many government officials were more interested in enriching themselves than serving the empire. The corruption led to inefficient tax collection, inadequate administration, and the gradual erosion of public trust in the government. 2. Corruption in the military. Much like the bureaucracy, corruption also permeated the military, particularly within the ranks of the Janissaries. The Janissaries, originally an elite military force, became increasingly involved in political machinations and corrupt practices. They would often side with less competent leaders who promised them more benefits, thereby weakening the empire's military capabilities. Moreover, funds allocated for military upgradation and logistics were often misused, leading to an outdated and demoralized army. 3. Decentralization and its effects. While corruption eroded the empire from within, decentralization made it vulnerable from without. The empire had grown too vast, and as central authority weakened, it became increasingly difficult to administer the far-flung territories effectively. Regional governors, or pashas, began to assert more autonomy, often maintaining their private militias and collecting taxes that they would not fully remit to the central treasury. This created a patchwork of semi-autonomous regions that were Ottoman in name, but acted independently, complicating efforts for centralized reforms or coordinated military action. 4. Power accumulation by regional leaders. Decentralization gave way to regional leaders accumulating more power, often challenging the central authority. Some of these regional power centers, like Egypt under Muhammad Ali Pasha in the early 19th century, even dared to confront the Ottoman army, further highlighting the empire's loss of control over its territories. Regional leaders were also increasingly cutting deals with foreign powers, further undermining the empire's unity and exposing it to external manipulation. 5. Legal and judicial decay. The judicial system, once a cornerstone of Ottoman administration, was also not immune to corruption and decentralization. Judges, or qadis, increasingly became susceptible to bribes and political pressures, eroding the rule of law. The local rulers often ignored rulings from the central legal bodies, demonstrating the diminishing reach of the central authority. 6. Long-term impact on reforms. Efforts like the Tanzimat reforms in the 19th century aimed at modernizing the empire and mitigating corruption. However, these reforms were met with resistance from corrupt officials and local power centers that benefited from the status quo. The corrupt practices had become so ingrained in the system that even well-intentioned reforms could not be fully implemented, leading to half measures that neither satisfied the demands for modernization nor alleviated the problems the empire faced. 7. Erosion of public trust. The public's trust in the government dwindled as corruption and decentralization intensified. Civil unrest, revolts, and dissatisfaction among the populace grew, making governance even more challenging. A weakened, corrupt central authority had neither the legitimacy nor the capability to address these issues effectively. Conclusion. In summary, corruption and decentralization were lethal blows to the Ottoman Empire's once robust administrative and military systems. Corruption eroded the empire from within, creating inefficiencies, breeding discontent, and impairing vital functions like tax collection and law enforcement. Meanwhile, decentralization rendered the empire fragmented and vulnerable, undermining any efforts for reform or modernization. Both these factors fed into a vicious cycle, each exacerbating the other, and collectively hastened the empire's decline. It is difficult to imagine how the empire could have sustained itself in the long run with such deeply rooted internal challenges, even if it had not faced the multitude of external pressures that it eventually did.